What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao, bringing you the latest news from Taipei. The search is on for crew members of a Chinese vessel that capsized in waters off Taiwan's outlying Kinmen Islands. Our reporter Rick Lauert is in Kinmen now. Rick, what's the latest on this incident?
A joint rescue operation between Taiwan and China Coast Guard is underway just off this Taiwanese island of Kinmen. That's after a Chinese vessel capsized in the early hours of this morning off a Taiwanese island near here. 2 people drowned, 2 were rescued, and the search continues for 2 more. Now, significantly, Taiwan's Coast Guard has said that China called Taiwan for help. Taiwan sent 4 ships and China sent 6. This cooperation comes as tensions remain high across the Taiwan Strait. China, of course, says Taiwan is part of its territory, a claim that Taiwan's leaders strongly reject. And relations have been particularly bad in the last few weeks. Beijing and Taipei disagree over the death of 2 Chinese fishers not far from here exactly a month ago.
So, given these heightened tensions between the 2 sides, is there any possibility that this could escalate somehow?
Been on these islands since that incident a month ago where a Taiwanese Coast Guard vessel chased a Chinese boat out of Taiwan's waters, resulting in the death of 2 Chinese nationals. Beijing said that Taiwan acted maliciously. It's accused Taiwan's Coast Guard of ramming the vessel. The relatives of those dead Chinese fishermen have been demanding compensation, and Beijing and Taiwan have yet to come to an agreement. Now, the situation today does look a bit different. As I said, China Coast Guard approached Taiwan for help on this matter. But we can't forget that there is no official communication between the governments of Taiwan and China. And this is a particularly sensitive part of the Taiwan Strait. This is a Taiwanese island, but we are just kilometers from the Chinese coast. There is still potential for this situation, for misunderstandings, and it could easily escalate.
Thanks, Rick. That was our reporter Rick Lauert in Kinmen reporting on the joint search and rescue efforts for the crew of a capsized Chinese ship. Separately, search efforts are underway for a missing Taiwan national, and those have entered their 4th day after a passenger boat capsized in Indonesian waters. Rescuers are searching waters off the coast of the country's capital of Jakarta. Officials say that the boat capsized after being hit by a wave, but all of the other 34 passengers have been rescued. This is the 2nd boat accident in the region this week, following an incident that left 2 people dead. New images show North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un leading a major tank exercise demonstrating the country's military technology. It was Kim's 3rd appearance at a military drill in just a week. It comes as the U.S. and South Korea wrap up 11 days of joint military exercises, focusing on how to defend against an attack from North Korea. And for more on the significance of the U.S.-South Korea exercises, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Jessica Taylor, a security analyst with the Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C.
Is there anything significant or anything different from this year's exercises between the United States and South Korea compared to drills held in the past?
We are seeing reports of just a slight difference, I think, is that the ROC in the U.S. have introduced a component where they are looking at missile interdiction and missile interdiction of cruise missiles specifically. And this is significant because there has been reports among the South Korean public about concerns of missile defense, possibly that we have currently not being enough to interdict North Korea's evolving missile capabilities. So I think this is displaying that the alliance is working towards ensuring that it's evolving its capabilities to make sure that it can meet the evolving threat that's coming from North Korea.
And looking at the North Korean side, is this the type of response we were expecting from Kim Jong-un in response to these joint military exercises?
I think we're all holding our breath for provocations more so. And I think there's this anticipation, especially as we get closer to the U.S. presidential elections, that things will heat up then. I think this was a little bit more of a toned down response than what we were anticipating, but the truth of the matter is that we don't know. I've heard some reports that this maybe is because there's been a lot of military support going towards Russia. Some think maybe that there's a holdout from Kim Jong-un to wait as we get closer to the end of the year towards the U.S. presidential elections. But I was more so thinking that we might see missile launches. But the training necessarily, wasn't necessarily anticipating tit for tat as some are seeing it, different training exercises back and forth.
Jessica, I just want to ask you, what happens now in the sense of now that these drills are done? Will talks resume between North and South Korea, or are we going to see more military drills going in the future?
Well, I think at least from the ROK and U.S. side, we'll continue to see scheduled drills as the ROK and U.S. ensures that it's getting back to its regular scheduled exercise schedule, especially as we don't anticipate, and as you probably saw in the release of the U.S. National Intelligence Community's threat assessment, we don't assess that North Korea is going to be willing to get back to the negotiating table anytime soon to negotiate ending its nuclear weapon program. So I do think we'll see more ROK-US drills, especially that's geared towards ensuring that they can strengthen their deterrent. I think we'll also see drills from North Korea, but that's nothing new. Even when the U.S. and ROK put a pause on their exercises or large-scale exercises, there wasn't a pause in North Korea. The only time we've ever probably seen any type of pause was during COVID. But so I think we will see more exercises, but I think more of the concern is if we're going to see tit for tat provocation type of style, like if North Korea launches a missile, will the ROK-US alliance respond in kind?
That was Atlantic Council security analyst Jessica Taylor speaking to our reporter Jaime Ocon. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency is on his first visit to Japan's Fukushima nuclear plant since it began releasing treated radioactive wastewater into the sea last year. The discharge has caused controversy around the region, with countries banning Japanese seafood over safety concerns. The Fukushima plant was hit by a tsunami in 2011, causing its reactors to melt down in one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. The UN's nuclear watchdog has vouched for the safety of the water released.
I can say that there was a sense of satisfaction as people see this moving forward. That being said, there's a lot of work ahead of us.
Japanese automaker Toyota has agreed to union wage negotiations and will give factory workers their biggest pay rise in 25 years. Toyota says that they will increase monthly wages by almost $200, fully meeting union demands. Other major companies like Nippon Steel and Nissan Motor are doing the same. Government officials are hoping that these wage hikes will spread to small and medium-sized firms. And these pay increases could pave the way for Japan's central bank to raise interest rates for the first time since 2007. TikTok's future in the U.S. is uncertain after lawmakers took the first step that could ban the social media platform if it does not sever ties with China. Rosie Greninger reports.
The US House of Representatives voting overwhelmingly in favor of a bill that could see TikTok banned in the United States, leaving the future of the social media platform in the country hanging in the balance. The fast-track bill gained bipartisan support, with 352 Congress members voting in favor and only 65 opposing amid concerns the platform is a national security risk.
TikTok is a threat to our national security because it is owned by ByteDance, which does the bidding of the Chinese Communist Party.
Lawmakers say they fear the Chinese government could use the app to access Americans' personal data and influence their views. The bill will need to be passed through the Senate to be made into law. And should that happen, it would force Chinese parent company ByteDance to divest its assets in the United States within 6 months or face a ban in the country. But with no evidence of Chinese influence, Beijing has labelled this potential ban an act of bullying, while TikTok maintains their platform is not controlled by or tied to the Chinese Communist Party.
Over the last few years, we have invested to keep your data safe and our platform free from outside manipulation. We have committed that we will continue to do so.
Lawmakers in DC acknowledge the issue of protecting US data, but not all of Congress agree that a ban will make a difference.
All of our social media platforms need to be treated equally and need to be treated the same way. And to single out TikTok in this way, we believe is dangerous and certainly against freedom of expression.
The bill has prompted a strong response outside Capitol Hill. TikTok is one of the world's most popular apps with more than 170 million users in the US alone. Some users who've made a career from the app say they rely on the platform to maintain their income.
This app is so much more than just an app for dumb TikTok dances. So when I hear these elected officials literally mock and make fun of TikTok and its creators, I'm disgusted. This is a life-changing app. So many people, not only 5 million small businesses rely on it, but 170 million people rely on this app for more than just their livelihood. They rely on this app for their mental health.
Politicians in Washington have received large volumes of complaints from teenage users who oppose the legislation. Some say the result of this bill could impact how they vote in the upcoming US election. And with 40 million people in the country admitting to using the app daily, the issue has serious sway with young voters. The bill is expected to face tougher debate in the Senate. But President Joe Biden, who is up for re-election, has said that if it does pass, he will sign it into law. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's low birth rate is hitting many schools financially as enrollments shrink. Private schools are hurting the most, with one in southern Taiwan turning to donations to keep its doors open. Jong has this story.
对孩子所有的权益，我们都会积极而且认真地做到。
Principal Gao Zuoping has spent years making assurances like this to parents of her school students, and now to the donors she's counting on to keep the struggling school open. The question is how long she can keep delivering on this promise. Tongji High School has educated children in this part of Jiayi County in southern Taiwan for more than 60 years. In the past, enrollment wasn't a problem, and the private school was able to cover its expenses. But as Taiwan's birth rate has plummeted, the school is on the brink of closure. But the staff isn't giving up on the several dozen students that remain. The principal and teachers have worked 2 years without pay to keep the school running. And that's just the beginning of the sacrifices those who care about the school have made.
我们的陈维忠董事他已经卖掉2栋房子，在支持学校了。那我们董事长林环董事长他也是解除定存，所以我们的董事对我们其实也非常支持。
Even those staffers who haven't invested so much are staying for the students.
你辞职不要做了，你赶快回来。那我说不行，因为当时我的班级是高3，对，那我身为导师，我不可能就此放任不管。
The students are fully aware of this, and they're studying harder than ever.
让自己再更努力一些，说不定这样子就会让学校更好过一点。
Help is on the way. The central government's set to take over the school's management in August, making sure it stays open at least in the short term. But the school estimates it still needs around $62,000 to pay for essentials like electricity, water, and maintenance costs before that. This has led it to seek out former students for donations. Not all schools are so lucky. In 2022, 193 elementary schools had fewer than 29 students. That's bad news for schools further up the educational ladder. Parents' groups have warned of what they call a tsunami of school closures in the coming years, as Taiwan gets ever closer to having the lowest birth rate in the world. It's a challenge not just for the country's leaders, but for parents, children, and educators as well. Ethan Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
A girl in Taiwan has woken up after being in a coma for 3 weeks in what doctors are calling a medical miracle. The girl is the eldest out of 3 elementary school-age siblings who were hit by a car while crossing the street in central Taiwan. She and her sister were hospitalized with serious injuries, while her younger brother was treated for minor wounds. Doctors are hopeful about the next step of treatment now that she's regained consciousness.
它可以正确执行，这可以确定它是完全清醒的。目前干细胞已经做了第1剂，未来还有3剂的治疗，那是针对脑部的损伤。
Thanks for joining us today for What's Up Taiwan. Follow us on social media to get more of our reports in your feed. And before we sign off, saddle up and grab your skis for this ski joring competition in the U.S. state of Colorado. This is the first time I've heard of this sport. I'm Eric Al, and we'll see you later.